Good afternoon. Welcome to our session on an open conversation.
From dialogue to delivery.
I'm Dr. Charlotte Wood. I am a professor in the Helene Full School of Nursing, College of Health Professions at Coppin State University.
I am Dr. Johnny Rice II, Assistant Professor in the Department of Criminal Justice, College of Behavioral Social Sciences at the Coppin State University. I'm excited to hear from my distinguished colleague, Dr. Charlotte Wood. Dr. Wood.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rice. I'm going to share my screen and we will start our presentation. And our presentation will be on the impact of healthcare disparities on entrepreneurial potential. And what I'd like to be able to share with you in this time that we have together is the ability for you to be able to discuss what healthcare disparities are as defined by the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality, discuss the multiple socioeconomic factors that influence or contribute to health disparities, discuss how entrepreneurship is becoming an increasingly important source of employment, and the impact of healthcare disparities on entrepreneurial potential. This session will provide a practical view of entrepreneurship and inclusive practices from the perspective of healthcare, and I will highlight for you a few of the barriers and opportunities. Healthcare disparities are major contributors to lagging economic prospects, and therefore the lack of access to quality healthcare is a direct contributor to avoidable increases in personal and business healthcare costs. So let me share a little background. So the Agency for Health and Healthcare and Research and Quality defines healthcare disparities as differences in the access to or the availability of medical facilities and services, and a variation in the rates of disease, occurrences, and disabilities between population groups. And those items are defined specifically by their socioeconomic characteristics such as age, ethnicity, economic resources, and gender. There are other multiple socioeconomic factors that contribute to health disparities, and they include education, residential segregation, stress, social and physical environment, and employment, among others. Disparities according to income and education have increased exponentially for the smoking population, especially those in low-income families. Racial health disparities are associated with substantial annual economic losses nationally. They include dollar amounts upwards of $35 billion in excess healthcare expenditures, $10 billion in illness-related lost productivity, and nearly $200 billion in premature deaths. If we were to make concerted efforts to reduce healthcare disparities, this could then have an immense economic and social value. In 2009, the Institute of Medicine called upon all the health systems and networks to collect data to help monitor and remedy disparities of care. The efforts to eliminate racial disparities, however, in healthcare is important, but that alone will not erase the racial disparity in life expectancy because of the impact that healthcare has across these United States. So we'll talk to you a bit about the keys to eliminating health, racial, and social economic disparities. And the way we can do that is by leveraging our diversity. However, leveraging diversity does not guarantee an immediate tangible improvement in organizations, groups, or individual performance. Achieving a diverse workforce and effectively managing that workforce can yield huge benefits. So there are at least 3 major keys to combating health disparities. One of them is sound intervention plan for community engagement. The second is spreading best practices to increase awareness. And then the third is integration into quality improvement projects by leaders so that they can have investment or buy-in into what needs to be changed. To respond to the demographic shifts of the workforce, patient populations, and address racial and ethnic disparities in access and outcomes of care, healthcare organizations will need to become more culturally competent. They're going to have to acquire new leadership skills and gain greater entrepreneurial acumen to respond effectively to the broader demographic and socioeconomic and political trends that affect our healthcare. That will help to reshape the leaders that we have that are part of our healthcare systems. Given the need for entrepreneurs in healthcare to address some of the industry and organizational challenges, the question that we might want to ask ourselves is, how can we impact the role of the institutions that educate healthcare leaders? And then what has been argued is that the role of education with healthcare professionals has to and must include entrepreneurship. However, GUO categorizes the core competencies of entrepreneurial healthcare leaders in 3 domains. One is understanding and knowing healthcare system and environment competencies, being a part of organizational competencies, and understanding the interpersonal competencies that exist. These competencies are well aligned, and not only are they well aligned, but they have a multi-level approach to them. So if we think about the need for entrepreneurship to become a major source of employment, we need to look at the required knowledge and skills to function as an entrepreneur and apply entrepreneurial thinking to achieving health equity beyond the traditional healthcare curriculum and borrowing some of the core competencies from other professionals. Several researchers recommend that there are 7 knowledge domains or skills, so to speak, that should enhance your entrepreneurial capability and bandwidth, especially those that are in the healthcare profession. And they are knowing your product and translating that product and service into a company, identifying the market forces and defining target markets, and determining your competitive advantage. You would need to write a business plan, resource that plan, and ensure that you have the appropriate resources to sustain that plan for the future, address the legal and regulatory issues, and master the skill of pitching your business. All of these knowledge and domain skill types can be learned and easily adaptable. So many individuals have become creative, and they've stepped into the role of entrepreneurship because they have had no other choice. Many of them because of their chronic illnesses or just because they have limited access to some of the job markets that are out there, have taken on different types of entrepreneurial opportunities. So you might see these types of entrepreneurial activities going on in home-based businesses, beauty salons, barbershops, braiding salons, all from the home, tax preparation, lawn and grass cutting, skills, babysitting, tutoring services for hire. But the biggest and one of the fastest growing models is advanced practice registered nurses, and the fact that they will hang out a shingle to care for clients in clinics. We need to be sure now that we need to ensure that entrepreneurial leaders in healthcare are being creative, innovative, investing in resources, and recognizing opportunities in the environment to increase entrepreneurial viability. So in conclusion, healthcare disparities are a major contributor to lagging economic opportunities. Lack of access to quality healthcare is a direct contributor to avoidable increases in personal and business healthcare costs. However, nurse practitioners have been described as socially entrepreneurial, and because of the way they conduct their business, with their ultimate mission being improved healthcare outcomes, they are seen as having social capital by working through collaborative relationships with other healthcare providers, individual service users, and the community. The required knowledge and skills to function as an entrepreneur and apply entrepreneurial thinking to healthcare education and systems can help nurses and other healthcare professionals navigate the entrepreneurial opportunities that are available. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to present to you the information that is most important about the impact of healthcare disparities on entrepreneurial potential. With that, I would like to entertain questions when we finish our complete panel discussion. And I would now like to be able to turn over this discussion and conversation to Dr. Johnny Rice to hear his wonderful presentation that he will be presenting.
Thank you, Dr. Wood. And right now, I will bring up my presentation. Greetings. I'm excited to talk about job skills development and entrepreneurship as viable pathways to change for our Black youth and returning citizens. It is my hope that after this presentation, you will have become more familiar with important contemporary issues related to Black youth, as well as formerly incarcerated offenders, that you'll learn about the impact of existing disparities and differential treatment in the juvenile justice and criminal justice system, that you will also learn about some great local programs as well as federal programs that are currently supporting Black youth and adults with criminal histories and exposes them to a variety of industries. And most importantly, you will consider and understand the opportunity presented by entrepreneurship for these groups. The problem: Black, marginalized, and delinquent youth often find it difficult to attain meaningful jobs as well as pathways to employment. And this is based on their prior criminal histories as well as personal barriers that have made it difficult for them to compete in the job market. And this has also hindered them from securing viable employment. For example, according to the Prison Policy Initiative, those who are Black or Hispanic, especially women, and have the status of formerly incarcerated, their employment opportunity is reduced. This perpetual labor market punishment creates a counterproductive system of release and poverty, hurting everyone involved: employers, taxpayers, most importantly, formerly incarcerated people looking to break the cycle. Formerly incarcerated people are employed at a rate of over 27%, unemployed at a rate of over 27%, higher than the US total unemployment rate during any historical period, including the Great Depression. So what are some of these personal, societal, and systemic barriers that have impacted our Black youth as well as adults? Limited conflict negotiation skills, low educational attainment, substance abuse as well as addiction issues, and as you see highlighted, most significantly, a criminal history, which has made it very difficult for them to earn a livable wage and to meet their responsibilities financially and emotionally. Racial disparities and differential treatment in the United States are historic and systemic. The juvenile justice system in the United States is reflective of that. For instance, approximately 32% of all African-American juveniles have been arrested. 36% of juvenile court cases reflect African-American youth, and 40% of incarcerated youth are African-American. These disparities are reflected more specifically for youth at every stage of the juvenile justice system. Disparities are reflected at every point in the system. Experts point to factors such as disproportionate presence of police or over-policing in minority communities. Minority lacked the benefit of the doubt in comparison to their racial and ethnic counterparts. Different actions are given to white youth engaged in the same behavior as Black youth. And when we examine the adult system, we also find differential treatment as well as disparities. And in the criminal justice system, these disparities are reflected in higher arrests, longer sentences, as well as in how they are treated within the jail and prison system. It is evident that Black communities are over-policed and are subject to more aggressive forms of law enforcement that place them at a higher risk of arrest. Stop and frisk practice, as well as zero tolerance policing, are just two examples of over-policing. These disparities are due to systemic discrimination and adversely impact Black people. Labels applied to our marginal youth, to our returning citizens, stereotypes and myths that state that they are violent prone and lack employability because they have inability to acquire the skills to work in today's economy, continue to hinder their ability to advance. The strain on African-American youth and adults is significant. If they attempt to achieve their goals by traditional means, such as acquiring viable employment, and are unable to acquire viable employment after trying several times, they may resort to illicit activity due to the strain or the inability to take care of themselves financially and their loved ones. So what do we know? Entrepreneurship provides an opportunity for those youth and adults of color that are locked out of the mainstream economic society. Entrepreneurship provides an opportunity for them to earn money, take care of themselves, and build a future for their respective families. According to Dr. Karen Parker, in her research conducted on business and crime, she analyzed the average violent arrest rates for African-American youth during 1990 and 2000 and other key factors to assess their relationship with juvenile crime. She found that for the period that the rate of violent crime among African-American adolescents dropped by 29%, while concurrently African-American owned businesses grew by 22%. So the growth of Black small businesses in the United States can create opportunities for those persons shunned by the traditional workforce. There are great local programs that work with young adults as well as adults in removing barriers and addressing those systemic as well as situational factors and challenges that can limit their participation in today's workforce. Youth Opportunity Center, the ROCA Youth Program, Mentoring Male Teens for the Hood, as well as the Center for Urban Families provides job skill training, interviewing, and has connections to employers that allow people to have an opportunity to move beyond their prior criminal past or delinquent history. The Small Business Administration, through its prime grants, has provided resources, funding, and technical assistance to individuals who are ex-offenders and to organizations that work with ex-offenders to expose them to entrepreneurship. So while the programs I mentioned earlier help to identify industries, then the SBA provides the capital for those individuals to then be able to advance and move forward and establish their own business in the industry in which they have a passion and skill set. So what's the cost of inaction? While returning citizens and marginal Black youth will continue to fall through the cracks due to the lack of immediate safety nets that are available for them. If they're unable to generate income to meet their respective needs, they may engage in further delinquent acts as ways to cope with the oppression and with the depression that they experience, or to generate income from an illicit economy. Continued excessive and disparate treatment in the educational and criminal justice system, further increasing the school to prison pipeline, is a main reason we should consider entrepreneurship and its unique benefits. If not, these individuals who are rejected from mainstream employment environments will then be left to make tough decisions that could lead to criminal activity. I want to thank you for the opportunity to discuss these ideas, and I'm going to pass the baton back to my good colleague, Dr. Charlotte Wood. Dr. Wood.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rice. As you have concluded, and as we both have ended our component of this discussion, this gives us an opportunity to allow members that are participants within our conference to ask us questions about our presentations. So with that, we entertain and we welcome the opportunity to respond to any questions you may have. Thank you so much for this opportunity.